Okay, lads, obey my commands. In the event of a knockdown, the fighter standing will go to the furthest neutral corner and stay there. Protect yourself at all times. Touch gloves.
Got a respect between a couple of good pros here. Anthony Fowler, I think, has learned his lesson. Has not got involved in any verbals against Brian Rose. This one is scheduled for 10. The WBO Intercontinental Middleweight belt is on the line. For both of them, for different reasons, their careers are on the line. The loser of this one is in a world of trouble.
Seconds out, round one.
It's Anthony Fowler, the Liverpool out in the red. Brian Rose, the former world title challenger, in the white. The man who at 34 still thinks he's got something left in the tank, and since losing to Jack Armfield, his old stablemate, over 2 years ago, he's had just a couple of fights. It took nearly 2 years out. I think that's why people thought he really had enough. And he's come back with a couple of six-rounders since. He's getting on the end of a jab there, but it's in his blood. He loves the business. I mean, when his first son was born, he told me, he said, there's only one name for him, Oscar, after my favourite fighter.
I thought we would call him Alex, but there you go.
No, he's got taste.
Well,
that's a low one. That's a really low one.
No. Gold shots, white. He's certainly copied my style on the ring. That's for sure.
I think that was remotely deliberate. He just completely lost the radar there. Rose didn't make a fuss of it at all.
So, yeah. Anthony Fowler's certainly not a dirty fighter either.
No. And that was so low. Yeah, it's like, no, he's just lost his sense of where he is there. Rose didn't make a big deal out of it. Bob Williams allowed Rose to recover, and on we go. Can be a very dangerous body puncher. We saw that when he beat Jose Carlos Paz back in December. Get rid of him inside 2 minutes. And Paz had been in with Jaime Munguia just before that fight, and had gone 3 rounds with the future world champion. So gives you a kind of vibe of how Fowler can hit. He can be a devastating puncher. We've gone low again there. Blindside of Bob Williams this time. We've got to keep an eye on that here, Fowler.
Good solid jab from Fowler, isn't it? I thought Dave Caldwell would maybe tighten him up in a few areas. And one area for certain that he's definitely improved in is that he seems to be looking to establish his jab from the beginning rather than look for the big shots. Something that he hasn't done for me, which I really feel that he should have done, is narrowed his stance a little bit. Anthony Fowler has a very, very wide stance. And it's unusually wide for me for a guy with a good jab. A guy with a good jab, their feet are normally a little bit closer together. And because of the follow-up shots, you'll always get your combination punches off a little bit better because you're obviously in a better position to move your feet. But Anthony Fowler's feet are very, very wide. His stance is very wide, and I think that he really needs to think about narrowing that down a little bit to work better, like in terms of his coordination, moving forward with his punches, moving backwards with his punches as well. But that jab's certainly working really, really well for him.
Which is very discouraging for Brian Rose, because Rose has traditionally had one of the best jabs domestically that's out there, and he works very well behind that jab, and if he's going to be out jabbed by Fowler, it's hard to see how Rose is going to find a way to win this fight. First round done.
Yeah, it doesn't want to be getting hit repeatedly on that nose as well, Nick.
Well, that'll open up.
Yeah, might cause swelling over the eyes.
Yeah. So the two trainers got a chance to assess the first 3 minutes. Dave Caldwell going to work in the Fowler corner, and Bobby Rimmer looking after Brian Rose. Brian did leave Bobby a couple of years ago, very, very briefly, but they've been together the whole time. They've been such a double act. Literally dragged themselves up from nothing, those two, all the way to the Barclays Centre in Brooklyn. There's the great Ricky Hatton to the right there. Always a pleasure to see him in the house. One of the great British fighters and one of the great raconteurs as well. If you want to hear some boxing stories, shut up, listen to that man. Even Alex Arthur would do that.
Yeah, brilliant. We go way back to when we were kids.
Lovely guy as well, and no big-time ego with Ricky Hatton.
Me and Ricky met when I think we were around 14 or 15 years old when we became friends. Yeah.
Hard not to be friends with Ricky, isn't it? He's such a warm human being.
Very funny as well.
Hilarious. Round 2 then of this 10-rounder. Anthony Fowler on top early in that first round. The man in the red trunks.
Good punch back in.
Yeah, Rose. That's a little slow to get going here. Fowler looks like he's just operating at a higher tempo. Rose, for so much of his career, at what the old school guys like myself still refer to as light middle, super welter, we have to call it nowadays. But at 34 years old, can't do that anymore. Up to middle. Nice work again from Fowler. One thing I did like about Fowler, he may have made his mistakes in the build-up to that fight with Fitzgerald. He never has tried to suggest he was robbed or anything like that. He said, yeah, if it hadn't been for the knockdown, I might have won it, but I didn't deserve to win it. He said, I had to learn some lessons. And Dave Caldwell said, I want him fighting with fear. And he's got, it's not so much fear for Rose, it's respect, though, because of Rose and what he's done in his career. Won the British belt outright with 3 successful defences. Worked so hard to get himself that shot at the world title. It was his misfortune to meet a red-hot Demetrius Andrade that night. That was a mismatch.
But back to this, Nick, and Fowler, he's not losing his range, but his range has certainly slipped a little bit from the first round. Is that because Brian Rose has gradually started to adapt to some of the the movements and the quite methodic patterns of Anthony Fowler? As the fight went on, Scott Fitzgerald started to read him quite well. Is he quite predictable? Is he, because he's physically quite a dominant fighter? Do you think he puts you, and he's in my opinion, he's very wide stance. Do you think he's almost ambling stock and style is something that these technically good boxers get familiar with and just start to, open up little holes in him, in your opinion, Nick? I mean, you've seen...
Well, as you say, Rose is a technician as well, and if there are holes that open up, Rose will exploit it. But I haven't really seen the Rose jab become a factor yet. If Rose is going to do anything, he is going to work off the jab, and he's not got that going at all yet.
Yeah.
See, it's short, it's popping out, but it's not in range. His wide shots have been well wide of the mark as well, no pun intended. Rose is not really finding his range, and even there he's
technically
reaching.
Something's happening, Nick, because Fowler's not having as much success as what he was having in the first round, and he doesn't seem to be in range as much as he was. So maybe it is Brian Rose. Maybe Brian Rose is just taking maybe a little half step back because he understands that Fowler's feet don't function really that well if he's coming in at any speed.
Well, the one thing Brian Rose will have is veteran smarts. If he'll have seen that and thought, oh yeah, I can have some fun here, and that's trying to get the bridge of the nose protected there. That's Bobby Rimmer. You talked about Ricky Hatton being a funny guy. No one's as funny as Bobby Rimmer, who is just hilarious. Bobby Rimmer can make cleaning your teeth sound like the funniest thing you've ever heard. Just a naturally funny guy. All business tonight, and it is so good to see them reunited back together again. They've done so many good things for each other, those two, down the years. It really was a partnership. Good to see them back together. And I'm sure Bobby at some point over the last 2 or 3 years has said to Brian, you really need to pack it in, but Rose genuinely feels after that layoff that he's got something left in the tank, but you do wonder if a couple of 6-rounders in the last 2 years is really the preparation for this. That loss to his former stablemate and good friend Jack Armfield really hurt him, because he was used to being the senior partner there. He was the guy, he was the big brother, and Jack was the baby brother. I don't know if they patched up their friendship after that or not. I genuinely don't know, but it's certainly in the ring. I think that was when most people wrote Brian's career off. And I think if he were to lose here, Not really good to the end of it. That's better work from the jab.
Yeah.
Fowler did get in, but Rose finished with a couple of nice
It
jabs.
certainly was, yeah, nice and sharp as well from Brian Rose. Seems to be moving a little bit more freely than he was as well.
So there's nothing wrong with those body shots from Fowler.
Could pay dividends in the later part of the fight. Brian Rose is a tough, experienced guy, knows how to get his elbows in, Nick. He might not take much effect just now, but possibly later on, Nick.
Rose is not known for his power, never has been.
Yeah, but he's very sharp and accurate, and he's normally
Yes.
quite precise as well. But again, you have to go back to the fact that, you know, a couple of 6-rounders in the past few years, is that enough at this level? Against a guy who lives in the gym, who fights regularly, who was, you know, a world-class amateur for a number of years.
Well, he's really targeting the body as well, Fowler.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go here.
And it's a good tactic as well, Nick. Again, harping back to the fact that Rose has been out of action at a reasonably good level for a while. Probably the area that you would want to go to most.
But in this third round, there have been some encouraging signs for the Rose jab, which we didn't see at all in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah, it's hitting the mark. Like I said, towards the end of the second round, middle of the second round, Rose was just starting to find that he could maybe just come back out of range a little bit, because Fowler's feet won't carry him in at the same speed because they're so wide apart. I think that Fowler's maybe, you know, he's maybe tipping onto that, and he's just like now using distance a little bit to get a few counter punches off as well. He's maybe settling in a little bit here.
Well, there's shades in this round of Brian Rose rolling back the years. Again, he went low with that body work, again on the blind side of the referee. Ooh, shot after being told to break there as well, which Bob Williams is going to let ride. Brian Rose isn't making a fuss of either. I wonder if he's going to have a little word in the corner there. No, he's not. He's going to pick up the cards. Interesting round, that one.
It was,
There's
yeah.
signs there that Brian Rose was starting to grow into it.
Yeah, those sides, yeah. I think we were maybe coming a little bit in the second round. There just wasn't much coming back from Rose then. But there, he started to get his distance a little bit more, and he looked quite confident with his jab, didn't he? I mean, you don't really want to trade jabs with Anthony Fowler's got a very heavy jab, and it really sits down on him.
But if there's one guy who could out-jab him, it is Brian Rose.
Yeah, of course. All he has to do really is take a little step back out of range, wait for Anthony Fowler's jab to come, parry it, and return it. Yeah.
Seconds out. Round 4.
Round 4 then of this 10-rounder. Anthony Fowler, the Liverpool man, looking to get back to winning ways after losing to Scott Fitzgerald last time out against the much-travelled 34-year-old former British super welterweight champion Brian Rose in the white. He's a bit of a nomad around the United Kingdom, was born in Birmingham. Based himself in Manchester for a while and has lived for the last few years in Blackpool on the northwest coast of England. Brian Rose. Fowler, Liverpool through and through.
Listen to the name.
Yeah, his cousin. If you know your history of the English Premier League, Robbie Fowler, the great Liverpool striker of yesteryear.
Light body shots by Fowler standard there, just whipping a couple of underhooks under the elbows of Brian Rose. Brian Rose trying to shut up shot now when Fowler gets up close, and they're going to have the opportunity now to get the body shots off. I think Brian Rose has probably realised as well that Fowler's trying to get those body shots in now to slow him down for the later part of the fight, but Rose is trying to take that away from him by tucking up, closing the distance with his elbows.
Very durable guy as well. It's something people forget about Brian Rose. Yeah, he was. And he's all getting a bit silly here with Anthony Fowler. We'll talk about the
Fowler's been a little
durability.
bit on the rough side, which is unlikely. It's unusual for Anthony Fowler. He's normally, you know, Team GB clean.
There's a lot on the line for Anthony Fowler.
There is, yeah.
If he loses to a Brian Rose that most people in the British boxing think is pretty much washed up. What on earth does that say for his career? He's got to win this fight. There's an awful lot at stake for Fowler. But Rose very durable. So he was totally out of his depth against Demetrius Andrade. The other defeats in his career came one after he'd badly injured a fighter, and it affected him mentally, and he allowed himself to be knocked out by pretty much a journeyman. He just wasn't right that night at all. And when there was a first-round stoppage against the Oklahoma City fighter Carson Jones, which was a horrendously early premature stoppage. Everybody knew it. And he got his revenge in the immediate rematch. So you take out the Andrade fight, and he's shown a lot of resilience over the course of his career. So Fowler cannot expect just to grind him down.
Fowler dominating with the jab there.
Still the body work from Fowler hasn't really varied that much.
Fowler that round next. A little bit busy up.
He's been busier throughout the fight, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has been,
He's outworked Rose. I didn't really see in that last round Rose building on the success he had in the previous round.
No, he certainly didn't. No, he allowed Fowler, I think, to just get back into the fight a little bit too much. He was quite dominant with the jab again.
Corners, 10 seconds. Seconds out. Round 5.
Round 5, we're racing through this one. There's 10-rounder. Fowler in the red. You would think comfortably ahead on the cards. I think Rose's lack of a really hurtful punch has always held him back.
At this weight as well,
Certainly at this weight, because he wasn't a big puncher at super welter either. There's enough there to get your attention, but not enough to make you think, oh, hang on.
I need to back up here.
Well, while Fowler has been steadily working the body, Rose has been looking to land the little counters, trying to get the jab going. You think he's learned the lesson about social media, Fowler? I mean, Liverpool fighters are notorious for being on social media all the time. I know that's a generalisation, but you find me one who isn't. And I think Fowler's another one. It's like a drug, they're hooked.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I think the trainers and the managers, I think there has to be a time where they tell the guys, okay, it's time to come off now, focus on what you're supposed to be doing.
What do? Take their phones, flush them down the toilet? I mean, they're not kids. You can't lock them up. They're not 14-year-olds.
You heard about what your opponents were saying about you and what the people were saying about you in the newspapers, and you very rarely went out to buy a newspaper when you were fighting back in the day. So
Fowler and Fitzgerald, I mean, they outwrote the complete works of Shakespeare with their social media war.
From Twitter,
Unbelievable. Rose committed himself there.
Then he took a body shot. Although he looked a little bit unsteady, but it was definitely a body shot that went in there. Nick, it wasn't a head shot. Such, you can sense who the heavier puncher is, can't you?
Well, just look how the torso is reddening up there for
the
Brian
marks on the
Rose.
side of the torso,
That's the giveaway. last few seconds then of this one. Again, Fowler just doing enough, just outworking Rose. Never yet threatening to break through, but in complete control here. You're watching Dazn. I'm sure has let Brian Rose know he's losing this fight right now. What can he do to turn it in his favour? The only way you could really see Rose winning this fight going in was that if he was able to keep it at range, use his technique, which is so sound, work behind that jab and just box his way to a points win. Never really been able to establish the jab. There's been moments where we've seen it. But Fowler has been on the front foot. He's been working the body, ripping a nice right hand through the guard upstairs there as well. He's been far the busier, more creative with his work. Very disciplined performance from Fowler here. But he is used to getting him out of there early. But like I say, Dave Colwell looked at Brian Rose's record and said there's one legit stoppage in there, and that was against Demetrius Andrade. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
This is not a guy you knock over easily. It was after that first defeat that Brian Rose lost to Max Maxwell, a tough journeyman. Well, he shouldn't have been getting knocked out by Max Maxwell, but the injury that he'd dished out in his previous fight when he left an opponent in a terrible state in hospital.
Yeah.
It messed with his head, and Brian was very brave because we're going back to 2010 here. He came out and said, I'm getting help from a psychiatrist. That was the first British boxer that actually came out and said, I need help.
Courageous of Brian then, yeah.
Yeah, nobody else had done that.
He just landed a pretty good 1-2 nick there. I'm sure you've seen it when you've chatted away, but it was nice and sharp and crisp, Brian Rose. He dropped it in lovely. So you often used to think about Brian Rose as well and think if Brian Rose could hit very hard, he'd probably be a very, very good fighter, wouldn't he?
Different level
altogether.
He is. The technique's terrific.
Yeah, he is and was a very good fighter, but if he could punch hard, wow, some of the results that he could have got.
Well, when he won the British title all those years ago, 8 years ago for goodness sake, seems like last week, he was in against a very dangerous and a much physically bigger champion in Prince Aaron. He was being touted as the next big thing in the division.
I remember that,
his ears off.
Yeah.
Dominated the fight. It was a split decision, one of those ludicrous, what were the judges watching, split decisions, but he dominated that fight, and it was all technique.
Oh, good body shots from Fowler there.
Fowler's landed a lot of good body shots.
3 body shots back to back. First shot was fairly light with the right hook, and then he threw a heavy left hook and another heavy right hook to the body afterwards.
Rose has not been cutting corners in the gym, has he?
Yeah.
He's solid around the midsection
there. Like you said earlier as well, mentally a tough guy as well, you know. So Tim's a little bit high though when he's riding back with the jab. He's just trying to pull back rather than slip.
Round 7.
Round 7 then of this 10-rounder. Anthony Fowler. The man in the red or pink, take your pick. In control here through the first 6 against the former British super welterweight champion Brian Rose. It's shaping up as one of those fights that you can hear 100 to 90 scorecards getting read out because Fowler's just been that little bit better every round. I can't think of too many rounds that Rose has won. In fact, I can't think of any rounds that Rose has won.
Yeah, no.
And yet none of them have been blowout rounds.
No, they haven't. Of course not.
Nice work again. He's been finding some good counters here, Fowler, as well. Whenever Rose does commit, which is not that often, he has been countered as well. And there he is again. He's reaching in with that right hand and taking the body shots as a result.
Some decent punch picking from Fowler as well, Nick. Smart about picking his counters.
Well, like that. I'll tell you, this is some nice counter punching that we're seeing here from
some good
Fowler.
punch picking, yeah.
Well, I think the sign from Rose's perspective as well that he realises I've got to try and force this now.
Yeah.
I've got to try and come out and dominate some rounds, take some risks.
Actually, Fowler's had a little bit more success, Nick, when Brian Rose has tended to come forward. Maybe it's because he doesn't have to move his feet as much. And again, I'll go back to talking about Anthony Fowler's feet. They're far too far apart for me. But when you've got an opponent coming to you, if you have a wide stance, all the better. You can run them into your bigger shots. If you're a good counterpuncher, technically, of course. And Anthony Fowler, he's got that world-class amateur experience. He's very well thought of by his peers and his teammates. I know Josh Taylor thinks really highly of him and did. Said physically there wasn't many people that could keep up with him in training when it came to doing the physical stuff.
That's where he got his nickname, wasn't it? The Machine.
Yeah.
He's kept on going.
Yeah. Could lift a lot of weight, physically very strong apparently.
Rose making him miss there, and Fowler.
There's almost a little bit Carl Froch about Fowler, isn't there?
I know exactly what you mean. But there's some things that you look at and you say, well, that's all wrong, and yet it's only wrong if it doesn't work.
Yeah, it works.
Your great compatriot, Jim Watt, who was an analyst for many, many decades, used to drive Carl Froch mad because he'd point out the things that Carl didn't do well technically.
Yeah.
And Carl used to hate it because it was all true, but Carl made things work for him.
He sure does.
Taking another Liverpool fighter in Big Tony to the world title that so many people said he'll never get there, but he did. And Bellew will credit Coldwell with a lot for the work he did with him and those 2 wins over David Hay at heavyweight. Fowler runs a very stiff right hand there as Rose once again took a chance.
Another good right hand from Rose.
Fowler going after him here. Rose committed. Got caught with a counter. Fowler knows that he just stung him momentarily. It looks like Rose has regrouped here. But this must be pretty demoralising for Brian Rose when he is trying to get in, step in and be first and lead off. He's getting countered very effectively.
Good right hand again from Brian Rose. Every time he lands that good one too, though, Fowler comes straight back, doesn't he? Yeah. So I'm not going to let you build momentum. I'm going to break your momentum as soon as you get me a good shot.
He's got to be careful. He's dropping that left hand pretty low here, Rose. He could get caught with a right hand over the top. Nice work with the body again from Fowler. This is round 8. Rose keeping that high guard. And when the guard is high, Fowler looks for the body. And when Rose leads off, Fowler looks for the counter. Not on that occasion, but he did manage to make Rose miss. But as with the last round, Rose is looking to be on the front foot, push Fowler back. And he's having limited success here, just as he did in the last round.
Good hand from Fowler on that.
You do get guys that they just don't know what to do if you can push them on the back foot.
Yeah,
they're
sure
lost.
do, yeah.
I'm not sure Fowler's one of them.
No, he looks quite good. Fowler looks good when people come towards him. He's quite comfortable. He can sit on the back foot and counter punch really quite well.
Nice uppercut from Rose. And again, if that had carried a bit of venom, could it have done some damage? Just seemed to glance off Fowler, but that's a really nice punch that Brian Rose picked there. And just had no effect at all. Last few seconds out of the 8th round. There's that uppercut again.
Nice uppercut, mate, yeah. Short and sharp, isn't it? It's very well picked. Really impressive. Good shot from Brian Rose.
Seconds out. Round 9.
Round 9 then. Something we talked about this being the losers washed up.
Yeah.
You know, if that loser is Brian Rose, and you would think it is unless something extraordinary happens here. Oh, he landed a beauty of a right hand again there.
Handy throws. He seems to start the round with that good one too.
Yeah. But I'm not looking at a washed up Brian Rose here. I'm really not.
No, he's certainly not washed up. It's just ridiculous to assume he's washed up at this point.
This is a live opponent, an up-and-comer, and he's going to lose heavily on the cards, almost certainly, but he has not been dominated. He has not been battered around the ring. This won't have taken a lot out of him. He's just made Fowler miss there. Well, we may not have seen the last of Brian Rose. Feeling a couple of rounds ago that Fowler might have settled for what he's got here as well.
Yeah, possibly not.
Yeah, a lot of rounds in the bank early.
Yeah.
Watch out. There we go. Rose took that pretty well though.
Yeah, sure did. Showing great durability tonight as well, hasn't he?
Well, like
certainly nothing wrong with his chin for a 34-year-old.
You look at 3 stoppages. 2 of them have asterisks against them. And Raid is the only man who wiped him out.
Yeah.
But even then, it took 7 rounds. I mean, it was 7 one-sided rounds, don't get me wrong. And Rose was on the floor 3 or 4 times. But there was no quitting Brian Rose that night. It was Bobby Rimmer that threw the towel in. A much tougher guy than people give him credit for. He's cut. There's some damage there. That's got the Rose fans fired up. Oh, that was a nasty, bad-tempered swing, and Bob Williams is going to have to deal with this. We'll get a little bit chippy here in the 9th round, just as I was talking about the mutual respect between the 2 of them. Doesn't take much to
it's a shame that really for Fowler, a nasty cut in the 9th round. It's a bit of a shame that.
Well, it is Rose coming on strong, landing a left hand there, and Fowler again responds. Last 30 seconds of this round.
Rose just showing up a little bit too much though. Understand that Fowler's heavy-handed and physically very, very strong fellow, but if Rose should be letting his hands go at any point, it should probably be now, Nick. Try and take advantage of that cut.
Nice uppercut from Fowler. Well, Kerry Kay's the cut man, will have to go to work to just get that under control. 3 minutes to go then in this one. Anthony Fowler well up on my card. And Brian Rose looking for the grandstand finish here. You would think if Rose wants to get this verdict, he's got to get Fowler on the floor. And last time out in the last round, Fowler was indeed on the floor. It cost him the fight against Scott Fitzgerald.
Yeah. You think Bobby Rimmer's told him he needs to win the last round by knockout?
Whatever you got, let it all hang out right now.
Yeah.
Don't hold anything back. Fowler was keeping his shape, keeping that guard high, picking his body shots.
More positive now, isn't it, for Fowler?
Very solid work here from Fowler, just keeping out of trouble. Not getting drawn into anything.
Rose really has to go for it.
Rose has to go for it and isn't.
His counter there.
And like I say,
Nice punching from Rose.
Fowler's not giving Rose anything, that's the thing. Fowler's very compact, very solid defensively. And Rose isn't just going to go charging in head down. He's got to look for a hole, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, no, it certainly isn't, mate. You're spot on.
Oh, wide that stance is now. Just got wider and wider.
Super wide, yeah. Good shot from Rose.
Yeah, he's got just over a minute though, Brian Rose.
Yeah, still needs to try and put them together though, Nick. There's not
Oh, he took one.
combinations.
Big right hand from Fowler. Rose is in trouble here now. He took a risk there. Yeah, he's been tagged a few times like that, but that was the most solid one yet, and Rose is backed up and the legs have turned to jelly here.
Some heavy body shots underneath as well.
It might be Fowler
very strong
that gets
Fowler,
the
isn't it?
exclamation point on this one, because Rose was hurt.
Good body shot from
Back
Fowler.
downstairs, then a switch
putting the meat in
upstairs.
these, Nick.
I tell you, Rose is hanging on here.
Looks fatigued as well. Fowler looks fresh. Look at that jab. Solid. Oh, great counter punching as well from Anthony Fowler.
Really is. 20 seconds to go, and the only question is, can Rose hear the final bell here? Because he's in as much trouble as he's been in all fight. That eye is a disaster for Fowler, but the fight is his.
So unfortunate there to suffer that cut.
Tell you, what a good fight this turned out to be. It just got better and better.
Fowler really turned it on there at the end, didn't he? Fantastic stuff from Fowler at the end. Very impressive. Very impressive.
And what a good fight.
12 rounds might have suited Fowler,
As it turned out.
a little bit more.
Well, he's been landing those right-hand counters when Rose was going for it, and then Rose just opened the door and he took a big one. It was the biggest punch of the fight. And Rose showed he's still got a good chin because he was in some serious trouble against a guy who's known as a big puncher. Well, he never shortchanged anybody over the course of his long career, Brian Rose, and he certainly hasn't shortchanged anyone tonight.
He definitely hasn't.
But I don't see how you can give him anything in this one. I got 98-92. For me, Fowler was pitching a shutout through 7 rounds and then clearly took the last round as well, and that was the big one right there. Timed it beautifully.
Could be an argument for a 10-8 round, doesn't it?
Oh, that would be harsh on the old boy. Come on, he's 34 years old and he stood up to that onslaught. No, I'm giving him 10-9.
You're very kind.
Yeah. Those Scots are tough.
Yeah, 10-8 from me.
And as you say, if that had gone on another couple of rounds, maybe there would have been a late stoppage. That one just got better and better though, didn't it?
Yeah, it
really
did.
In the first 3 or 4, it was just too easy, really. Now there is the respect. Good to see. Brian Rose has earned the right to be respected in this business, that's for sure. Well, that's a good way to come back for Anthony Fowler, beating a good, solid, experienced opponent. Big hug for Bobby. It's funny, there's never been any bad blood in this one at all, has there? And just look at the respective trainers, Bobby Rimmer and Dave Caldwell here, talking to the other guys, just saying, hey,
Respective opponents, yeah.
great job.
Very, very nice.
You don't see enough of that. I'm not going to be as harsh as you. I got 98-92. You've got it wider.
Yeah, 1 round wide on it. 99-81 for me.
And the good news for Brian Rose, what news there is that's good, is that nose didn't open up tonight.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
It's normally
There's so much
seeping
scar
blood,
tissue
yeah.
over the bridge of the nose there. Just anything lands clean on that, it just pops.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get some applause out here for both of these fighters. After 10 rounds here in Liverpool, we go to the judges' score totals. They read as follows. Bob Alexander and Howard Foster both scored the bout 98-92. Terry O'Connor 97-93. All for your winner by unanimous decision. And the new WBO Intercontinental Middleweight Champion from Liverpool, Anthony the Machine Fowler.
Can't argue with those cards. Brian Rose knew it as well. You see, he was applauding. He knew.